I'm going to go straight in with a question. Rick, what does fast running mean to you?
Running close to your peak in any given year at any given distance.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm thinking about it more from how it makes me feel. So running fast is, now that it's warmer outside, I find it so much easier to both get out and run in the first place and run fast. And then I have the smells and the sensations of summer running, which for me was running on the track. So that feeling of the wind rushing through my hair, I would say, don't have anymore.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, as you can see, running fast is subjective. Every runner will have their own opinion or their own kind of thought process of what faster running means to them. And importantly, every runner has the ability to probably go a little bit faster. So this week on the Running Channel podcast, we are discussing how to get faster at running.
We're also going to be covering the latest running news and answering your questions. And there is a brand new, very exciting segment in which Rick takes centre stage. Can't wait for that.
I'm terrified about this. Do not make me carry something heavy around the course this week.
Oh, let's get into it.
Well, interestingly, Rick there talking about not wanting to carry anything or actually do anything or make any effort or really just like try at all.
Unbelievable.
This kind of prima donna nature that he has leads me straight into an anecdote, because first we're going to have a little catch up. And my anecdote is that someone from the club, the Running Channel Club, did a post talking about their experience at Birkenhead Parkrun. They were also there the day that you did Birkenhead Parkrun. And it was a really lovely post congratulating you on essentially raising the profile of the parkrun and setting record numbers of attendees and so on. So this is Joel Williams. Shout out to Joel.
Hi, Joel.
The Rick Kelsey effect is the title of the post.
Oh my gosh.
As mentioned on the podcast last week, we saw a new Birkenhead Parkrun attendance record overseen by Lord of the Gavi.
915 runners, yeah.
Which was Rick Kelsey. But I will add that when runners were asked to move off the grass at the start, he was the only runner that remained on the grass, ignoring the instructions of the event team.
Oh gosh. Did I say hello to Joel? I'm not sure.
You're not going to now,
He's
are
not
you?
going to now.
God,
Why didn't you move off the grass? Oh, sorry, grass.
I couldn't fit grass.
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 It was a tight squeeze. I kept on getting pushed out.
He's a rebel.
I am a rebel.
Straight back out.
And I'm not quite sure why they do that, but is it to preserve the grass?
Probably, yeah.
I did try.
Remember that at school, being like, keep off the grass.
I did try to get in line, but literally I just kept on. There were so many people, I just getting popped out. I was popped out the side.
You just get popped out. You're like, those when the penguins huddle together to get warm, and then one of them pops out the side, and then there's desperate trying to get back in.
I was scrambling to try and get in, and just failed. That was the first kilometre that showed up on my watch as 5:17. When
and then you were like, I'm not even going to try anymore.
So that I didn't, but I think there was something going on. Do you know, your watch, does it do it from the watch or the phone? So the GPS?
Oh my God.
Do you need to?
Rick. I mean.
No, hang on. I'm obviously the watch does it, but does it need to collaborate later on? With the phone.
What do you mean?
Well, they team up.
Do they team up? A little trip to the pub before they work out. Do they need to confirm before they give their final answer?
I bet you there's some reality in this. I bet you there's some reality.
I mean, I don't think there is.
I bet you there is.
Well, I think you'd have to, if you wanted it to correlate isn't the right word, is it? But if you wanted it to be cross-referenced with the phone, I think you'd need to be recording it separately on the phone. So the phone just takes whatever has been recorded on the watch,
right,
and then pushes that into whatever platform you might be using.
Okay,
so Connect or Strava.
Exactly. So there could be some underscore of collaboration that comes later when you link them up.
Well, this is an interesting tease.
When you lick them up.
I thought you said lick them up as well.
Link.
This is an interesting tease for Rick's Challenge, which is our new segment, the podcast we're trying out this week.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of inspired by your technological literacy.
We are looking for suggestions, so do email in podcast@therunningchannel.com if you have any suggestions of what you would like Rick to test out in the name of 10% science, 90% making Rick's life a misery.
I'm getting slight flashbacks here because I think it was before you joined, Sarah. So in the early days of the Running Channel, when we were, like I always say, filming on our iPhones in Battersea Park in 2018, there was a segment that used to go into the Running Channel show.
The monthly show,
The monthly show. That was it, the Running Channel monthly show. Where I had to try something out.
Yeah.
And I think at one try, it wasn't a gastric band, but it was some kind of band I had to try out.
It definitely wasn't a gastric band. We didn't make you have surgery for the channel. You have, I will say you put your body on the line, but that's extreme.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, there was some incredible.
There was
we made you lie on a bed of nails as well.
I remember being in my local park. I just headbutted the mic. I remember being in my local park.
I think Rick's lost
and literally people would, because I always did it on a Sunday morning and it was during lockdown. People would come and watch me try out these weird contraptions.
Yeah, you did a bed of nails. You did an ice bath.
Yeah.
What else did we
The
make
ice bath
him
was a bit pathetic, though. I think we make him do it again because he ran like 2 inches of water in his bath with a rubber duck in it and just got in it and was like, oh, it's really cold.
Yeah, I remember in the edit us being like, no, we need to make this look more dramatic. We do some
Didn't I get a crane? I got a crane with ice next time, though, didn't I? Didn't I get a crane?
Yeah, you got a pallet of ice.
Pallet of ice, yeah.
Oh,
that went down well with expenses.
Well, how are you feeling about Hackney Half?
So, do you know Face ID?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Familiar with the concept.
When you've had a big night on the Gabby and it doesn't recognise your own face.
Yeah.
Owen took me on.
I'm not sure it's the phone that doesn't recognize. It's not like the phone has been drinking alcohol and can't recognise your face. I imagine you're just not pointing the phone at your face.
The same thing happened after an 18.1 kilometre tempo session. I'm sorry, an interval session that's 18 kilometres. Who designed that?
Me.
Yeah, Andy set you some training, didn't he? How did it go?
Well, we kind of, because of you don't run that many times during the week, so you're restricted to running twice a week, broadly speaking, on average, because of don't want to get injured and so on. You also wanted to make sure you'd done your longest run. We wanted to tie in an interval session because of the target that we've set you, or you've set yourself for Hackney, which is to try and run very diligent pacing and negative splits. And so we designed a workout that fitted into your program that combined the two things. And you were the one that wanted to make it longer, actually. So it was, when I put it together for you, it was, I think, somewhere between 13 and 15K. And you're like, well, I'm going to run 18K, so I want to do that.
Do you know what we
were on the fly. We were ad hoc adjusting based on how you felt on the day.
Do you know what my brief to Owen was as well? I was like, we've done loads of workout videos with Rick over the years. Every time you do a workout, you finish, and I'm like, you could have dug a bit deeper there. So I said to Owen, I was like, look, we need Rick suffering in a video. That's what I want. I want pain.
Yeah.
I ideally wanted tears. I don't know if we got that, but I wanted your little pink face in Victoria Park, unable to open your phone.
It was warm,
which
as well,
I think we got.
Yeah.
Was that what happened? Was the Face ID just you were too red in the face to open it?
Phone didn't recognise me.
Incredible.
So you got your anti-theft phone case because it matches the colour of your face.
Correct.
I'm guessing it wasn't working that well, but
No.
you should have had a red one to swap out at the end of the workout.
I don't look like me. Honestly, at the end, we filmed a couple of things for the Running Channel Club, and I just looked at it back. And I was just like, I don't know who that is.
Oh, I did. Owen came into the office after that and sat next to me, very smug. He'd enjoyed his life that day. And he showed me a couple of those clips where you're barely coherent.
It also, you looked like, we all said you looked like Papa Smurf.
Papa Smurf.
Because you were in a full blue get-up.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. But for this
face
week...
was so puffy. So puffy.
Maybe, don't worry, because what we've got you for Hackney Half is an ice face mask to wear.
You serious?
No.
You would have been up for that. Look at that.
He was like, oh, really? But genuinely, how are you feeling for race day?
I am relieved that I did that 18 kilometres with a week to go. I'm excited about race day. I think my pacing's all right. I think I've actually I can now feel what it's like to run at 5:45-ish. I can, without having a watch on.
Yeah. It's a skill in itself, yeah.
I can feel what it's like to be close to 5 minutes per kilometre. I don't know how diligent I will be at keeping my, what's the word? Discipline.
Powder dry.
Yeah.
I think the Running Channel audience are split in the kind of comments and the emails that I've seen, where I think we had talked about it amongst ourselves where we were, whether it would count as success for you if you still run a negative split, but you just don't run the times that we have decided that you're going to run. And so there's a lot of people like, no, if he runs a negative split and he runs really well, then that counts regardless of whether he's disciplined enough to hit the targets.
I'm going to say no, unless you do what we've set you to do.
Well,
Sarah's tough.
That is really harsh, Sarah. 5:45 for the first 10, 5:30 for the second 5.
Yeah, but we all know you're going to set off at 5:15.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not.
You are. Poor Owen, who's going to be running alongside you.
He's going to have had a fully mixed breakfast because he's been lulled into a false sense of security.
And then 5:20 for the last 6.
I've briefed Owen. I'm like, look, you're going to be running a 90-minute half.
I think you've got this. I think he's going to really surprise us. I think he's going to be metronomic in his discipline.
All I need to think of, and I've put some real deep thinking into pacing, is
that probably meant he spent about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Is not be thinking anything about a personal best. No, at all. The personal best is nailing your pacing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is it.
Yeah, so, especially because it might be quite hot as well.
Yeah.
And also, I actually quite like a half marathon for that because it's not 20k, because it's 21.1-ish something. I quite like it because it's very hard to do the maths in the unless you've pre-approved the maths that you need, or like you've pre-approved, okay, 15k needs to be in this to be this. It's impossible to work it out for me.
Yes.
And definitely for you too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you'll probably be fine.
You did a bit of running at the weekend?
I did. We both did a challenge, which was stop running when you think you've been running for as long as your 5k PB time. So you
really
can run
rolls off the tongue, that one.
Really succinct.
Who came up with that?
Yeah, me. But it was actually quite a good challenge because it was a lovely chance to kind of reflect on previous PBs. Rick, myself and Anna did it. All separately, so you'll be able to see that video soon. Anna was in Croatia, very jealous. Although we did have beautiful weather in the UK.
Yes.
My legs were a little bit tired though, because the day before I had bought Tom for his 30th birthday present a adventure race, which was essentially you get given an OS map at the start of the 6-hour event. And then it's got loads of checkpoints on it, and then you have to plot your own route using a highlighter, follow said OS map in a mixture of running, kayaking and cycling.
I feel like that's a kind of a 30th birthday present that could go either way.
I agree.
And it did. It really did.
When he received that, was he like, oh,
yeah.
Not a watch?
He was.
Not a watch.
No, I got him other stuff as well.
Oh, okay.
He was buzzing with it. And then it was obviously very hot on Saturday. There were multiple elements. Tom's currently training for a half marathon, and so he was really happy that we ran about 13 kilometers, but I don't think he was then that buzzing to then get into a kayak, because that's not really
That's quite nice to cool off though.
No, it was awful because it was really fun. I quite enjoyed it, but I think for most runners, our hip flexors are not our friend.
I can't sit up straight in a
kayak. So literally imagine your leg out straight in a kayak, and Tom was literally.
By the end, I have to lean back, and my hip flexors are like, aching.
It was awful, and also the way that they launched, it wasn't like a launch pad where you got in nice and gently, like off the side of a pontoon. It was just a steep, like grassy bank, and then this poor person, because it was a 2-person kayak, one person held a rope, I got in the front, and then Tom had to get in the back, and then they just launched us off, but that meant that the kayak just flooded with water as we set off. Wow. But it was great. I had a great time. We're still friends, so that's. I was
going to say it's a slightly frosty atmosphere in the office this morning. So is that in relation to this 2-person kayak?
Bit tricky.
I think it's the day 2 DOMs have and truly set in. Yeah.
Andy, have you travelled around the world this week?
Well, interestingly, we have like some very loose notes for the podcast, don't we? That the producer Owen gives us. And today he's written down Sarah, talk about these things. Rick, just you might want to talk about these things. Andy, complete blank. Just doesn't care. Does not care about what I've been up to.
He was just wondering if you'd been flying over the North Pole somewhere dramatic this week.
No.
People love that chat, by the way.
Yes, apparently.
One person commented on it, Rick. One person
said they took that route from London to Tokyo with BA last week over the North Pole.
There we go.
Yeah.
Great.
No, I'm travelling again.
Great, Sarah. so sarcastic.
I've got a very exciting trip coming up this week, so I'm still in my survival mode. But I have been fitting in a reasonable amount of running.
You're going to watch some cowboying.
No quality, no variation in my running. I'm going to Kansas City, which is very exciting. But the running I've been doing is just whatever my body feels is appropriate. So getting out and running and enjoying the weather, I find it way easier to run when it's like this. But I don't have anything exciting to report. And what I'm doing right now is what I would not advise people to do if they want to get faster at running. I'm just doing the same thing every run, which is just going
Lovely segue.
Thank you very much.
Shall we go into how to get faster at running?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't do what I'm doing.
Just do all the runs the same.
Yeah.
I was actually, when we were filming the 5K challenge thing, I was talking about this because for so long when I first started running, I was probably doing the opposite to what you're doing, where every single run was the same pace, and I was going out, and whatever my 5K PB was whatever I could consistently leave the house and just go out and do every single run.
So you just had pace A.
I had pace A.
You were an early version of Rick.
Yeah.
But Rick is branching out now. I think the stereotype, he's broken it. He's broken the...
Well, the simple fact behind getting faster, if you want to get faster, you need to train at a faster pace, don't you? But there's so much talk at the moment.
Just not all the time.
Not all the time, but there's so much talk at the moment around zone 2 running.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how running at a slower pace with a low heart rate can actually help you with your faster stuff.
Yeah. And the reason, so we've done a video about this really recently. Was me and you, wasn't it, Sarah?
It was.
And it's basically like how, run slower to run faster.
Yeah.
And that's predicated on the fact that most people do what Sarah did, which is that if anything, they run too fast. So they might not have the variety and the structure that we're going to talk about. This is like the optimal way to get better at running. And by get better, it'll help you get faster and chase PBs, but it'll also help you enjoy your running more.
Yeah.
Be more consistent and just be fitter overall. You'd see all of your markers going up if you kind of follow this rule. So your VO2 max will go up, your lactate threshold will improve, all of that sort of stuff.
That's actually what I enjoy the most about like getting faster. It's not necessarily the all-out PB efforts of when you've hit that new speed. Like, ask me to run a sub 25k again. No, awful. But what I do enjoy is that through the process of doing that, all of my easy runs feel easier if I'm hitting the same paces. And there is, a certain element of you might go out and be able to run that little bit faster, but you have to understand what an easy effort feels like versus a slightly faster threshold or tempo effort versus faster, shorter interval effort.
Yeah, there's no quick fix to getting better at running. In this, and it's an interesting analogy. Well, you can tell me whether it's a good analogy or not. I've spoken to a lot of nutritionists in the past about what the best diet is for runners or for performance and all that sort of stuff. And broadly, you get a slightly boring answer. Not to do a disservice to any of the nutritionists, but like there's no magic bullet. There's no like take, caffeine. That's going to be the single thing that helps you to be better at running.
Yeah.
And
despite what some things might say.
Well, I mean, those things will help you, but only if you do all the other stuff as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And quite often, I think people misconceive it for like, if you were an elite athlete, then it could be game changing to add caffeine into your routine because it's a 1% change.
Yeah, because you're already doing all the other stuff.
Yeah, because you've maxed out the amount of runs that you can do or the amount of different paces you can have or all of the other stuff. If you get all of that right, that's when those little kind of game changing things happen.
And people talk about superfoods in that diet analogy. They're like, if you're going to eat blueberries or broccoli or whatever it might be, and it's not going to be one food. It's going to be the nutrition advice will be have a balanced, varied diet, lots of color in it, so that
eat a rainbow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's the same in running. If you want to enjoy your running more and to see an improvement, if you've hit a plateau or you've hit a certain level and you don't know what to do next, it's giving every run a purpose. Like, and I'm going to move away from the food analogy now. I was going to try and make parallels there. But the giving every run a purpose and having the variety in it during the week. But a big base of it is that zone 2 running. So like this 80-20 analogies.
Can we just quickly deviate? Because I know people loved this the last time that we did it. Rick, what would you say a slow run is as a food group?
Oh, stop. This makes no sense. We did this last time.
An easy run. Easy run, what food is it?
An easy run would be an apple.
Yeah, nice. An apple. That makes sense.
Why?
Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
And then I mainly do this just because it winds Andy up. Then an interval session.
An interval session would be some couscous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm not really vibing with it this time. Some couscous,
Yeah, you're not vibing with it because it makes no sense.
Lots of little components to it. Lovely. And then your longer run?
That would be like a spicy meatball pasta.
Oh, okay, there you go. Back to Andy.
See, it's now driven me mad because I'm trying to think of stuff that would have made sense. Like surely an interval session might be like a mix of fruit and dried nuts or something. Dried fruit and nuts.
You know what an interval session is?
No.
Have you ever had Lunchables? Yes. For anyone who's not in the UK, or I don't know where Lunchables are sold, but essentially it's you get a little box and it has crackers in it, and then it has little squares of cheese, little round. Why is it
let's
round?
Move on. This is
round
ridiculous.
bits of ham. That's an interval session. All your different components.
So please, can we bring it back?
Go on then.
So the zone 2 stuff, like you will see a lot of people that will talk about the Maffetone method, where it's everything should be in zone 2. Everything should be below this definition, this MAF, maximum aerobic function heart rate. And you should do everything below that. But then even that method, if you read into it enough, basically says do that to build your base for a certain amount of time. And then when you want to maximize your performance, then you need to start introducing variety and speed work and stuff like that. And every pro athlete's regime to try and run anything from 1500 meters up to the marathon will involve a mix of easy runs, steady runs, tempo and interval, so tempo and threshold, intervals, and then your long runs that will be broken down into different ways of doing those long runs depending on the distance that you run. So there's no sort of,
there's a
million different ways of doing it, but the simplest, the kind of core constituents don't change.
Yeah, it's a lot to fit in though. If you are thinking, right, I need to get faster, right? So you do your long, easy runs, your base building, then your tempo runs where you're constantly running at a faster pace near your max effort, and then your speed work, so your interval training, like I've been doing recently. That's a lot to fit in to get faster.
And it's not necessarily a case of you need to do all of those things every single week in order to get faster. Everyone runs in their own way, and that is also what is so great about running, is that you don't have to train like an elite, run 12 times a week. If you are someone who is running 2 times a week, 3 times a week, then you can still build in some kind of slower, easier runs, which really might even turn into recovery runs once you introduce those faster sessions. Even if you're running kind of 3 or 4 times a week, it might not be that you do 2 easier runs and 2 faster sessions. It could be that you alternate between doing like an interval session 1 week.
But you have to be doing the speed work. If you are, like you were going for a sub 20-minute 5 kilometer, you had to be doing the speed work, running it faster than 4 minutes per K pace.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have that speed work, you wouldn't have had that in your legs to get around.
No, and it was definitely a mix as well of 1, learning the pace for the final attempt, and 2, actually running faster than race pace in order to kind of condition my legs to turn over a little bit quicker. Yeah.
And I think one thing that, me included, I think a lot of runners think really rigidly in the sense of like this arbitrary 7-day, like as in I'm going to do 3 runs a week.
Yeah.
So these are 3 days a week that I can run around my work and kids and whatever. That makes total sense. That's fine. Stick to that. But then don't think about it as just, you could think about your week as, you could think about your training block as 10 days or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be able to run in a 2-week period, you're going to be able to run 6 times. And you might say, so rather than having to be every single week, I've got 1 easy run, 1 interval session and a long run, and just repeating that every time, you could actually say, every 2 weeks I've got 6 runs. And so that's actually quite a lot of variety that I can put into those 6 runs. And so you don't have to just, but it's I think we're conditioned to think about the start of a new week every time.
That's so true.
So
I was listening to a podcast recently actually with someone who's being interviewed. They're a triathlete, and they went through their entire week of training, and I think it finished with maybe like a 3-hour ride on a Sunday. And she was saying like, then absolutely buzzing because I can switch off for the rest of the week. And even though it's like, well, you've still trained that day. Like you've got 8 hours to recover before you then go to sleep, wake up and it's a new week. Some people like that, but actually to think in a 2-week block suddenly opens up. And I think as well, a lot of people, your first run of the week, if you've done a long run at the weekend, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be that recovery run. But I think that's where a lot of people trip up because they're like, whoa, fresh week. My Strava's reset. I've done 0 miles. I'm going to go out and absolutely smash my first run of the week.
It's like, you've done a really long, tough run on a Sunday, but it's a new week on Monday. So
Monday,
you just go again.
New day.
Yeah. And I had friends who, as pros, they thought of their week as starting, because these are the marathon guys I'm thinking of particularly, actually. A lot of them, this might not be true now, but they would think of the week starting on a Sunday.
Nice.
So then they get there. So I was always thinking I'll get through my week and then I'll deal with my long run on a Sunday, which I hated. And that was like the last thing of the week, a bit like that triathlete you're talking about.
Yeah.
But these guys are like the longest, most important run of my week as a marathon runner is my Sunday run. So their week was like day 1 of their week was Sunday.
I see.
And so they've tackled that big run on day 1.
At the beginning, knocked it out, so they got the confidence.
So and I think that you could, in that context, you could then, instead of thinking like it's an interval session that you do every week as your 3rd run, or as your middle run of 3, however your week is structured, you could just alternate or change it, and every week it's just a run that is faster. So that could be hill reps, that could be a tempo run, it could be blocks of threshold running, it could be a very specific interval workout, it could be fartlek, it could just be something that's faster and has a variety of paces in it and gives you that sense of purpose when you're out there that you're going to be doing harder efforts. Also,
if you train in that way, so you're looking at like a 2-week block, it also gives you a bit of time potentially to play with when you're throwing in strength and mobility work, which again, so important to get faster. I think if there was one thing that helped me get faster over 5k, it was adding in strength training. Makes a huge difference.
Fartlek, for someone who doesn't know what it is.
Speed play, Swedish, I think, for speed play. So it just means mixing paces up, really. And they could be really structured. So you could do 5 minutes, then jog a minute, 4 minutes hard, then jog a minute, 3, 2, 1, like that. Or it could be totally random, like you're running in a forest and you pick a number of trees that you're going to run hard for, and then you jog for, but you're always moving, so you don't walk. It's a continuous run with hard and slow efforts. I did have one other thing just to mention. I think I got a DM asking about from someone saying they're really struggling to get to more than what they think is 85%. Effort when they're running, say, a 5k or a 10k. And they were saying, how can you force yourself to run uncomfortably?
Go out with Owen on a Thursday morning.
Well, quite. And my answer to them, I don't know what you guys would say, was that I think it's a learned skill to be able to push yourself to your limit. And I think a way of doing it.
Is this a Ned Brockman thing?
Oh, well, just being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Perhaps it is, yeah. But his is an extreme over a long period of time. I'm thinking like, what a lot of people struggle with is just going hard for 20 minutes or half an hour, whatever it might be. And I learned as a real young kid, the first thing I ever did on the track with my coach was I needed to run at a certain pace for 1,500 meters. So we would start by running 400 meter efforts at that pace and have quite long recovery in between them, 2 or 3 minutes recovery. Yeah. And then throughout the season, I'd go back to that same workout every few weeks, but the recovery would get less. So the times for the efforts, the number of efforts would be the same. And I would just reduce the recovery. And so that by definition helps you to condition yourself to be comfortable, because you never recover then. If I've started off with 3 minutes recovery and by the end of that, I might have had 30 seconds recovery. You're just never recovering. And so then it's a sort of sneaky, gradual way of getting used to tolerating that effort.
Yeah. I suppose that plays kind of into like the mental toughness of it all, doesn't it? I think I've become far more confident about races by doing the interval work, knowing that I've got the speed in my legs to overtake when you need to. And I don't think I had that before I started doing properly structured interval sessions.
I think as well there's a big thing of like learning about your body. Like that's kind of half what training is. It's like learning, okay, is my heart rate too high? But it's a real feeling. And I think that's where interval sessions really come into their own, because you can practice in like a safe environment. Okay, where can I push myself to? Or like if you go to the track, say you wanted to do 10 reps, but actually the main goal of the session is like, okay, how fast can I go? Yeah. It doesn't matter if you get to 6 and then drop out. Like all
find
of
your limit.
Yeah, all of my sessions at the running club that I go to are, you get like a range. So it might be like, today we're going to do 6 to 10, depending on how you feel, or we'll do 8 to 12. And it's totally fine if you get kind of halfway through that and go, actually, I was going to do 8, but I'm only going to do 7. Yeah. Or, I've done 7, I feel great, I'm going to do 9. Yeah. I think it really is like learn the feeling of it, and then that should allow you to just push on a little bit more.
Is it weird that there's a big part of me there was like, well, you can't do 7 or 9 reps. You got to do 8 or 10. I don't know why that just freaks me out.
I consistently do. The way my brain works is that if the coach has said like 6 to 10, I'll do 7.
But Andy, we're the running channel, we're literal. We do what we say on the tin.
Yeah.
We were talking about our trip to Japan. If we go for 9 days or 10, do we call it 10 days in Tokyo or 9 days in Tokyo?
Yeah.
We'll call it 9 because we're there for 9.
There you go.
And we're not doing an extra podcast for Rick. So that we can call it.
I feel like I've touched on something.
But speaking of Rick, and the fact that he's learned stuff about intervals, and he's just generally always open to learning, aren't you, mate?
Definitely.
Next up, we've got our brand new segment, Rick's Challenge.
What a jingle, mate. Well done for making that.
Well,
so with this, we thought it was about time that you learnt more about running, because I think you've learned a lot about kind of running and what it is, but there are so many kind of different things out there to help you get faster. Gadgets, gizmos, tech.
Yeah, so this is essentially where I'm going to try out a new bit of kit on a run. I'm slightly nervous that what you're doing in this first week of this new feature is giving me a new bit of kit when I've got a major half marathon to tackle.
It's the perfect time for it.
Which is already quite academic in its nature.
We're always looking out for you.
You already have a huge undertaking. And so that is why we've bought you something to help it make it better. Now, I just have one question before we reveal it. Would you say you're a mouth breather or a nose breather?
Oh, I'd say I'm probably a mouth breather.
Excellent. And don't you feel like your running could be so much more vastly improved if you were more of a nose breather?
Am I wearing strips on my nose?
Yeah! So we've started easy. We've gone easy on you for the very first episode.
So you don't have to carry anything. There's no kind of... So producer Owen bought 2 different types. Mainly...
How many's in that pack, by the way?
We got you know.
Several hundred.
You can nose strip for the rest of your life, mate.
I love that you bought... So I'm pretty sure you can get...
They look like spanners.
Yeah, they do look like spanners.
You can get ones that are sort of Band-Aid, like plaster coloured. But no, we've gone for the bold black, stark.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everyone's going to know you're wearing it.
Look, we've got loads of spares. So look, here you go.
There are different versions of these that have magnets on as well, aren't they? That with opposing poles that kind of push your airways.
So what are these supposed to do? Just put it over the bridge?
A bit lower down, I think, yeah.
A bit lower down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just put it over the bridge?
Yeah.
There we go. I think we need a bit of practice with the mirror. You've done pretty well there.
Do
you know what?
Great.
I normally wear a similar thing for blackhead removal.
Oh my God, what have you...
It's definitely not straight.
Why have you stuck it on at an angle?
All right, so what are these supposed to do?
So basically, these are going to open up your nasal passages, allowing you to breathe better.
What are those ones you're holding there, Sarah? Are these the magnet ones?
So these are the magnet ones, which I don't think are right for running necessarily, or would be a bit much for the half marathon.
Oh, they to stop snoring and stuff?
Yeah, these are mainly for stopping snoring. Do you want to have a quick go with these as well?
Okay, so these aren't the ones I'm wearing.
No, you're wearing the one that you've got on.
For audio listeners, Rick's wearing a plaster across the bridge of his nose that is quite rigid, has some kind of stiffness inside it. So it wants to ping open, doesn't it, Rick? So it kind of pulls your nostrils open to help with your breathing. So
look, now try this.
Oh, you're going to put those on as well?
Yeah. No, as in take the one off that you've got on.
So then the other option that we've got in are these little spots that each have a magnet with, I think, my understanding will be opposing poles in them. So that then you pop one on each of your nostrils, and because they have opposing magnets in them, they push your airways wider open. Right,
so just put that roughly on one
and it's got like a special little magnet to apply.
Put this on one side of the nose.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, then give me...
You look good, mate.
So Rick's got it on his right side of his nose, then take that.
Is this like when they do a feature on the radio and you really need to be able to see what's happening?
Yeah, you got it. So then I could then give you a piece of your... Also, these episodes are available on YouTube, so if you want to see the full madness, watch this. And then how wide do you reckon your nose is? I reckon that
medium.
wide.
Pretty wide.
And then this should literally just open it straight up. So then whack that over the top. Other way around.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think so, isn't it?
No, is that right?
Yeah, it's pulling my nose apart.
How does that feel?
I'm not running with this on.
No. So you'll run with the strips.
Right.
Well, you're running with something
do you snore?
No.
Right.
He does snore.
If you do,
no, I don't.
We snored when we were in Malaga together.
Maybe we'll
only to annoy you.
Maybe
you were snoring on purpose. So you're doing what my children do and just pretending to sleep for 8 hours.
We'll take these to Tokyo and then.
Well, these are. Okay, so these are the sleep ones.
So they're the sleep ones
with the magnets on them. Okay, all right.
But why don't you wear it for the rest of the pod and then you can just get used to it?
Yeah,
but we want you to message in podcast@therunningchannel.com. What should we be getting Rick to chart? We've started with a very, very gentle one here.
Oh, we've got such a good one coming up.
We've got 2 or 3 ones that are in our locker already that Rick doesn't know about.
Yeah,
and it is a genuine surprise, most of these to Rick. So
people are going to look at me quite strange.
Yeah,
that's going to be true anyway.
I honestly think though, so many people are wearing these. I would love your honest feedback of kind of what they are.
So many people are wearing these. I bet you. On the start line in Hackney, there is 0.
Well, no, there'll be at least one.
People.
There'll be at least one.
Wearing these.
Should we make Owen wear one as well?
Yeah. No,
0.
I would say no, but I think in solidarity, producer Owen, because this is his idea.
I look like an absolute tool.
Again,
and that's without the nose.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Oh, look. Well,
We're trying to help you. We're all about marginal gains.
All
here.
right, let's get on to some questions, shall we?
Questions. Let's do it.
Right, we're going to Perth in Australia to
Doesn't
start
his
out
voice
with.
sound better? It just sounds more open.
Yeah.
Right, okay,
It's like
yeah.
you've done loads of vocal warm-ups.
Here's Rick from Perth in Australia. For context, he's 184 centimetres tall, 90 kilograms, and he's 47. 184 centimetres, that means he's just over 6 foot, I think. Just
So
over.
much taller than you then.
I'm 6
Have
foot,
we
remember.
talked about
I'm 6
that on
foot.
the
I'm
podcast?
182.5.
You're not 6 foot. You are 5'11" and a half. We measured it and proved it.
Yes, which gets rounded
you
up.
don't round.
Yes. Hey, you two, pipe down over there. All right. Seriously.
He's crossed about his nose, isn't
He's
he?
Yeah.
crossed.
This is just. This is called bullying, workplace bullying.
This is absolutely not bullying. We're here to support
We're
you.
helping you.
Right. I am trying to improve my half marathon PB from 2:12 to 2:05 this year.
Deep breath.
Very good.
Deep breath, mate.
This is at the Perth Running Festival in October. Based on your advice, I have come out of my single gear and now do long, easy runs, threshold runs, and intervals at different paces.
Nice.
Is there really any benefit in adding easy recovery runs at an even slower pace? I have tried, but I'm struggling going that slow given that I am already relatively slow. Any tips for the 2:05 attempt? Other than getting a pacer would be appreciated. Keep up the great work.
Well, I think Rick deserves a round of applause because Sarah and I were doing our best to put you off by giving you various sort of breathing-based banter during that. And it shows that you're used to having, because we talked about last week when I came back from Tokyo, having talk back from the directors in my ears. That really threw me off. But you just soldiered on. It was like we weren't even talking.
Such a pro.
Yeah, thank you very much for the compliment. Very rare nowadays.
So this is, hey, we are.
Hang on. I can hear the tiny violin.
Yeah, can you put some tiny? Can you put some sort of little string music in there? In the edit
violins there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Thank you.
So I think the answer to Rick is no, you don't have to force a slower, easy and recovery run pace. I think our advice is here is have as many paces as you can. And the fact that you've already changed to have a very distinct long run or steady, easy run pace, then you've got your intervals and threshold runs in between. I think you're already doing the majority of the work here. And we would always say that sometimes mechanically it can just feel uncomfortable to force yourself to run too slowly. So don't do it because you might get injured potentially.
Might be as well that you, for those kind of recovery runs, it's better to run to feel rather than run looking at the pace.
Yeah.
Obviously for interval sessions, it's great to kind of be looking at your watch and be dialed into those paces. But actually you can use RPE, rate of perceived effort or exertion as well for recovery runs, which should be, can you hold a conversation? Is your breathing kind of comfortable?
Yes.
You're not working too hard. So
Your breathing's very comfortable, is it, mate? I can imagine it is.
maybe you need some nose strips.
Yeah.
Hold that thought, Rick. It might be get a nose strip, but we'll feed back next
So no,
week.
don't overthink it. Just enjoy the runs and have the variety that you've already got in there.
Yeah.
Right, a club question. Dan Calvert, after just completing a half marathon and inadvertently setting a 5 and 10K PB as part of the plan during interval/fartlek sessions, it got me thinking.
Ooh.
Is it possible to turn a half marathon into one big interval session? Well, pretty much. This could be in the form of rolling 800-meter intervals of one big fartlek. Would it make a PB more achievable as your brain forgets the constant pacing levels? Potentially a video for the TRC team to find out.
Oh, I love this because we had loads of chats about this in the lead up to spring marathon season because everyone was talking about...
Sorry, my magnet is itchy.
I mean, that's you just saying you wanted to pick your nose.
Yeah, carry on.
Everyone was talking about how do you pace a marathon. Half marathon will be very similar. I think this is possible. And actually, I've done this loads of times at parkrun if I've wanted to do a kind of interval session as part of a 5K. And I've definitely seen people set PBs as part of this. But yeah, maybe 800-meter intervals would be quite savage during
that'd
a
be
half
brutal.
marathon, but you could do it as more of a kind of threshold. Like I know Meg from the Running Channel office, she was training for London and loads of her longer run workouts involved floats, which is basically go hard for maybe a mile, couple of miles, and then you kind of float for 5 minutes or 5 minutes
and
as
it
a
feels
recovery.
like a bit of a recovery because you have done this fast. Yeah, I was thinking that yes, you definitely could do it. You could do whatever you wanted in a half marathon. I think the way you get closest to running a PB would be like Sarah's described. So I remember in my marathon training doing something where I think it was 3K hard, 1K float for over for a half marathon distance broadly.
Do you ever find as well that at the end of like a threshold or an interval session, my cool down pace is so much faster than my warm up pace?
Yes, absolutely.
Because you've just dialed into such a faster pace that actually what feels kind of nice and easy at the end is a bit faster.
Yes, exactly, because you've settled into it. And I think it does definitely distract from you, but I'm going to give a hard no on it being your like ultimate optimal performance. So it might trick you into being able to run a PB, but if you want to run your absolute best, then no, breaking a run, a half marathon or whatever it might be up into intervals is not going to be as good as like even pacing.
Sarah, before we go, have you got a quick favour to ask?
I have got a favour to ask. Please do email in podcast@therunningchannel.com if you have any other challenge suggestions for Rick. We've obviously gone in with one that looks pretty funny. So more of those would be greatly appreciated. But we're kind of with this segment, we want to test all of the things that you might potentially be thinking about spending money on and seeing what their benefits are, exploring all of the different tools, tricks, extra things in running.
Rick's just giggling over there because he knows what's coming his way.
Seeing what Rick makes of it. So please do email in if there's anything. Is there anything in your shopping basket? Is there anything you've added to your basket and you're not quite sure whether to click buy yet? We will test that out for you.
And I've actually generally never considered having a nose job, but one of my nostrils is wider than the other. So this is equaling things out. So there are actually cosmetic benefits to this.
Is that
already.
the only piece of cosmetic surgery that you haven't considered?
And on that note,
yeah, it's the only one left. It's the only one left.
Bye-bye.
Can't wait for next week's report.
Bye-bye.
Bye.